I would actually like to start with an exercise. So I'm going to ask all of you to please close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And now picture a professor at university. Now shift your mind and picture a CEO at a successful company. And lastly, picture a nurse at your nearest hospital. Thank you. You can now open your eyes. Just some quick follow-up questions. Was the professor you visualized black? Was the CEO a woman? And was the nurse a man? My topic for today is implicit bias, and don't worry, I'm not going to call you out on yours. The important thing for you to know is that we all have them, and that it doesn't make us assholes, but it can lead to harmful behavior and exclusion. A quick confession. I used to believe that biases, even unconscious ones, really reflected who you are as a person. But it can be quite the opposite, actually. You see, growing up, you're exposed to a lot of different things that shape you into the person you become as an adult. Everything from experiences, things you see, things you hear, and things you've thought. A lot of these things you might be very much aware of, but some stays unconscious. And as a result, some of these lessons and experiences can turn into implicit bias. Now, implicit bias is a reaction that the brain makes without even thinking. It's a reaction that happens within milliseconds. In fact, our brain makes 90% of our decisions without conscious thought process. It's a way for our brain to save energy, and it determines how we act with help from past experiences. It's actually what helped us survive for millions of years. We make choices that seem safe and familiar. And the fact that our brain is on autopilot when we're opening up doors or shopping for food, that's not a bad thing. The harmful outcome is when we start making assumptions about people unconsciously. And to explain that more thorough, I would like to examine women in leadership. When I started at the university here in Oslo, I, among others, were exposed to many ideas and thinkers of a pre-modern time that kind of provoked me. It was everything from eugenics, racial injustice, to the view of women. To take an example, there's something called the one-gender model. And the idea behind it is that it's just one gender, only that the woman is an underdeveloped version of the perfectly developed man. And the idea of women as incomplete and a reduced version of the man have been conveyed by several thinkers on our curriculums. And as a result, women, like men, have been assigned certain qualities and roles. Now, even though a lot of this has been discredited in modern time, the structures that indicates women as less fit comparing to a man still holds a firm position in society today, especially when we're looking at leadership. A couple of months ago, Forbes posted an article that explored why there are so few women in leadership. And the article suggested that women face more bullying and double-bind biases than men, which basically means that the relation between what's expected from a leader collides with what's expected from a woman. In other words, women are traditionally expected to be warm, sensitive, caring, emotional. And when they don't conform to these prescribed roles and behaviors, they can be penalized. And if they do conform, they're not considered fit to lead. Now, men doesn't face that same problem because what's considered bossy in a woman is considered leadership quality in a man. And this really demonstrates the deep-rooted biases and how women and men are judged differently, while equally competent. Just think about it. Who did you picture as a CEO? What ethnicity and gender popped into your head when I said the word professor? All of these biases has consequences for us and for the people we interact with. So when looking at leadership, how most of us determine who's fit to lead is based on who we've seen succeed in the past. And you can probably see how many people we're excluding. By continuously making biased assumptions, we're not only making poor decisions and limiting our choices, but eventually, we're letting it to cause discrimination. Because we're telling people that they don't belong. That based on their skin color, gender, sexual orientation, age, or a mix of these, that they're less fit. And this is one of the main reasons to why the Norwegian government suggested to remove all the names from the job applications sent to the municipality and the state. It's not because they think that the majority of people in recruitment positions have conscious racist or sexist behavior, but because many of them make unconscious decisions based on, for example, similarity bias, which results in them hiring people they think are fit due to the fact that they remind them of themselves. Now I've only scratched the surface on how we uphold an uneven power balance in relation to women, but that's just a small percentage of all implicit bias. And I strongly believe that the most dangerous thing about it is when we reject it. When we deny having them, we're not only lying to ourselves and others, but we keep producing and reproducing the same behavior over and over again. I know some of you might expect some tools on how to counteract these biases, but instead I would like to leave you with a challenge. The next time you catch yourself feeling uncomfortable, stressed, or surprised when something doesn't add up to what you expected, try to recognize that and say it out loud. You can start with your friends, family, or even colleagues. Really own up to that implicit bias and then try to tweak your mind into a different thought pattern by expecting the unexpected or normalizing things that differ from what you're used to. I can start. A couple of years ago, approximately 4, I caught myself reacting to a man that was studying to become a nurse. My mind suddenly and instantly was looking for evidence to prove that he was gay. And my mind didn't do that because I'm an asshole. It did so because of the social and cultural structures have taught me that nursing is a feminine profession. And for me, in just milliseconds, that collided with the fact that a straight man wanted to become a nurse. That's not a cool thing for me to admit. That's not fun to say out loud. And I can always choose to say, come on, Adela, you're a feminist. Of course you're not upholding traditional gender roles. Or, you're not biased towards gay people, you have so many gay friends. But that would not only make me a fraud, it would also uphold these biases and continue a vicious circle. And in my opinion, that is way more dangerous than recognizing it, owning up to it, and then starting to tweak my mind into acting differently. Thank you for listening.